Hello, everyone, and welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast coming to you, as always, from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Empire. My name is Joey Tolley, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Garrett Jones. Garrett, how are you today?
I am fantastic, sir. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful, wonderful. Just started a new job, really enjoy it, and I am ready to get uh, back to talking Star Wars again for the last time before I go on my vacation. So, but you guys will be in great hands with Garrett and Will taking over for me for a couple of weeks while I'm gone. So, fear not, you are in the capable hands. Uh,
Yes.
but let's just get straight to it. Let's just get straight to what we're going to be talking about today. We had so much fun last week talking about our top 10 characters that today we are going to be having some fun and we're going to be discussing our top 10 ships. Now, I think we're just doing all kinds of ships, capital ships, fighters, just general. Maybe next time we do vehicles. I mean, who knows? The land vehicles, the stuff like that. Um, so I guess do you want me to start first or?
Yeah. Well, so just to kind of give everybody a heads up who's listening, who's watching on YouTube, we're going to be actually doing this into two parts.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to be doing is we are going to be covering John's list first, and then on the second half we'll cover my list. And I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of a crossover.
Oh yeah.
And so it's gonna be fun. So instead of just getting one episode this week, you guys are getting a double dose, just to make sure that you guys are getting an equal amount of John before he goes on his trip. That way, you can always hear his voice twice in 1 week.
That's right. Yeah. All right. So my number 10 is a ship that I first read about, and I believe it was the Thrawn trilogy, and they also showed up in the X-Wing games, I believe, too, one of the X-Wing games, too. Just the concept of the ship I thought was very cool, but it didn't show up in canon until the Rebels, and that is the Interdictor cruiser. Can you see it on there?
Oh yeah, I can see that.
I love the concept of the ship. So for those of you who are not familiar, this ship is designed for one thing only: to trap fighters, to trap ships from going into hyperspace. It sets up a gravity well generator, which is powerful enough to pull ships out of hyperspace, and once there, to keep them in normal space. The Empire used this a great effect to catch rebel ships and pirates. Um, just a really cool design, really cool idea, and I mean, I love how you can see the big domes on it for the gravity well generators, and still staying within that sphere of the Imperial design. You can still see the Imperial Star
That
Destroyer shape, that
triangular, yeah.
triangular shape. Um, before I go any further, I guess I should mention some honorable mentions. I don't have the picture for them now, but my honorable mention is going to go to the Nebula B frigate, the gunship. I call it the gunship. I think just a fun little design. When you look at it like from a practical standpoint, it doesn't really make sense because it's like, well, you can kind of hit right there in the middle, and it's you know, um, but yeah, but yeah, my number 10 is the Interdictor cruiser. Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I was thinking about putting that one on my list, and because I thought it was just such a unique design. But because I mean the ship moves a little bit slower than your standard Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
But thank you for putting that on there because I was thinking about that one and I could not for the life of me remember the name.
Yeah. There's a few things I'm going to mention that changes that they've made, not necessarily to the ships, but how the ships move. That I think, in fact, I might as well go into it right now. One thing I love that they've added that I noticed the first time I noticed it was in Rogue One. Is I love how they changed the special effect for how ships come out of hyperspace. Because if you remember the old way, it was almost like you could see it coming from a distance. It was just kind of like dragging it in, and then the ship would show up. I like that now, like you see in Rogue One, where it's just like boom, it's there. Like when the is it the Executor? Is that Vader ship was the Executor?
Yes, the Executor is
When it shows up in Rogue One, where it's just there, like it's like there's a ship coming in, boom, and it's there. It's like it gives that surprise, kind of surprise, where it's like it's not there, then it's there. I just love that effect, how they kind of made that to be how that's how ships come out of hyperspace. But
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
all right,
my number 9 is a ship that will be well known later on because by a slightly different design. This was a ship that was the first basic for design for a fighter that will come later. Pull it up. Hold on. And if it is the ARC-170 Arc Starfighter, clone Starfighter. As you can see by the design, you can see what ship this was inspired by, or would inspire later if you're looking through canon. First time you see this ship is, and of course, I believe it was Revenge. Episode 3 was the first time the ship showed up. I don't just
cinematically,
cinematically, yes, yeah. Just such a unique design. You can see what would the inspiration of what would come later with the X-wing starfighter, which, by the way, spoiler alert, is on my list. But yeah, just such a cool ship. Come on, you had to know the X-wing would be on here. Come on, people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's just a matter of where is it? Ooh, foreshadowing. So next on my list, I don't know everybody do that. Next on my list is my first starfighter, and this ship first showed up in Empire Strikes Back, or not Empire Strikes Back, sorry. First shows up in Return of the Jedi. It is the B-Wing. I don't know, again, a cool ship. I just love that's not a very good picture of it, but anyway, I suppose it's a model. Well, that's actually pretty cool. Yeah, just always been fascinated by this ship. It was one of my favorite ships to fly whenever I played the old X-wing game. I love the B-wing. Just so much firepower, and yeah, I just loved how they. What's happened?
What happened?
Right. Hold on. I clicked on the wrong button. Sorry. But yeah, the B-Wing is my number 8 favorite ship.
It always felt a little off for me. It felt a little off balance because I always expected the capsule to rotate as you're playing, as you're flying it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. It stays flat like that, like a wing. And I'm like, it feels weird. Like given its maneuverability, it should be able to do that. So you could still be in the cockpit with your axis being the way it is, with the ship moving around you. But
and I think when it shows up in Rebels, I think it can. like
Hmm.
because it shows because they have a whole thing where they talk about it in Rebels, where they're designing the new ship and they talk about how difficult it is to fly and how it takes a very highly skilled pilot to be able to fly it because of how it's designed and because of how it is. But the trade-off is the firepower. Like
Yeah.
it can hold like the firepower of a small of almost a small capital ship. Um, it's got like so much firepower on it. So it's almost overpowered. Is I guess would be the one downside. Is almost overpowered.
Yeah, it does have some substantial firepower to it.
Oh yeah, yeah. All right. So we are on number 7, and my number 7 is this is my one foray into the sequel trilogy, and I am going to for my next one pull it up here. It is the Special Forces TIE Fighter. Um, I
Ooh.
I just something about the Special Forces, like yeah, you can look at it looks like a TIE Fighter, but if you really get into it and look at it, it is so much more than just a normal TIE. It is, I think, twice the size. It can hold 2 people. Um, I believe they put a hyperdrive on it, didn't they? I don't remember.
Yes.
They did, yeah,
The newer ones do have the capability of doing hyperdrive,
yeah,
especially if you get into the sequel trilogy era.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, the Special Forces TIE Fighter, and they kept the one thing that I've always loved about the TIE Fighter is that iconic sound. Like you just have to hear that whining sound, and oh, that's a TIE Fighter. They have such a unique, which I think is so cool that they gave a ship like that such a unique sound
Oh
that
yeah.
like the minute you hear it. If you're a Star Wars fan, the minute you hear it what that ship is. That's a TIE Fighter. Of course, designed by Linear Fleet Systems. Um, yeah, just I don't know, just again a cool ship. You can see there, you can see the cannon in the back, the forward cannons, the yeah,
Well, it's so iconic that like what one of the things I really loved was as a kid seeing just the TIE fighters in general had a really neat design to them.
mm-hmm.
Uh, you, and so I remember the scenes from Muppet Babies back in the '80s where they incorporated the TIE fighters and their sound
Yeah,
effects and that footage from the original film
yeah,
into like there's like one episode. I'm like, but they always played it in like the opening credits. It was really cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that too. And like you said, they're so iconic. That shape, and especially for a ship that is based mostly in space. It makes sense. You don't have to necessarily have aerodynamic shape on your ships to be able to fly through space. So having the big flat panels that can can soak up the ion rays to power the ship, which is basically what those panels are. They're to charge the ion engines. But yeah, just
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's and that's one of the things is that it like as a kid initially I didn't care for the TIE fighters because they didn't have like the traditional wing,
yeah,
but
yeah,
as I've learned about them, going through my teens and my adult years, I'm like definitely much more maneuverable than some of the Rebel
yeah,
Alliance ships.
yeah. So what am I on, number 6?
You are,
Okay,
sir.
my number 6 is an iconic ship. It's gone by various names, uh, but you probably know it the most under by either the Tentative 4 or the Rebel Blockade Runner or the Corellian Corvette. Um, this is literally one of the first ships you see in Star Wars.
Yes.
From the very first, this is the first ship. Well, technically, you see the back of the Star Destroyer. But other than that, this is the first ship that you really see the whole ship. Is the Rebel blockade runner, the Tanager 4. I mean, again, I think an iconic Star Wars ship. It's and the fact that you see this ship all the way through from the Clone Wars through. That this ship is still kind of out there and doing this thing, and I mean, what do you when you think of this ship? What's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
The first thing that comes to mind for me is the opening scene from A New Hope, where
Yeah.
you see this overhead shot of the blockade runner just barreling onto screen from above. Like you don't even anticipate it. Like the crawl is barely finished, and you're like, okay, cool. There's a planet. And I'm like, holy crap! There's a ship there. Where did that come from? As a kid, that terrified me because I'm like,
and you look at the ship, and I mean, as a kid, you're looking at this ship like, oh my gosh, that ship is massive. That ship is, holy cow, what's behind it? Yeah. Holy cow. Because what is behind it is my number 5 ship. Hold on. Which is, of course, if I can find it. Oh. What is behind it is, of course, this ship right here. The Imperial Star Destroyer.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we talked about iconic. This is so iconic. I mean, it just screams Imperial power. It just, if you're looking in character in canon, just seeing this above your planet would be so terrifying. To see this hovering over, and I think of that scene from Rogue One with the Star Destroyer right above Jeddah, just hovering there, and just how overpowering it seemed, and just how I mean, yeah.
It's a very imposing image because I mean because of the iconography behind it. There's some if there is a way for these for Disney, like even with what they're doing now at Disneyland and Walt Disney World with these with Galaxy's Edge, how cool would it be if they use some kind of holographic technology to project a Star Destroyer hovering in orbit above the planet Batuu? How effective would that be for the storytelling?
Yeah, and I know that they've had other Star Destroyers that have been bigger. The Super Star Destroyer, the Eclipse, the First Order ones, but I don't know. There's just something so iconic about the Imperial class. You can say it's the backbone of the Empire. It's the backbone ship of the Empire. It's it's the one that Vader chose to be his flagship. I think even after they had the Executor, he still had his own. He still went around in Imperial class, and I think there's a reason for that. It's intimidating. It's scary looking. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's terrifying.
It is.
Yeah. So we are at number 5.
That was 4. We're doing number 5 now.
Okay. We're doing number 5 now or number 4?
4.
4. Okay. All right. Let me close that out. My number 4 is a ship again. The first time I saw this was actually in a video game. It was the TIE Fighter video game they brought this ship out and first mentioned it. And then later on, it shows up as a main plot point of Rebels, the TIE Defender.
Ooh, I like that.
That
Yeah,
is,
I've seen the TIE Defender in Star Wars Rebels. I thought it was a neat
yeah. This
design.
actually, the first time this shows up is in the game TIE. This is the actual video game TIE Fighter. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I believe it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was part of the whole, part of the whole game is that this new ship is being developed, and there's a rogue Imperial general or admiral who's wanting to overthrow the emperor and take over as emperor himself, and you have to try and stop him. But that's a good game. I mean, if we're talking about favorite Star Wars games, TIE Fighter was definitely one of my favorites. And Thrawn shows up in that game too. It is pretty cool.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. I never got a chance to play it. I know the storyline to some extent.
Yeah.
Simulator games were kind of hard for me. Like the first simulator game I got a hold of was Star Wars X-Wing. I think, can't remember if it was part 1 or part 2.
The first one, because they had X-Wing, then they had like an expansion to X-Wing, which you could get, which added like the B-Wing and all the
only thing I ever had access to was the X-Wing fighter and the A-Wing. And there were certain things you had to do, like flying through rings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was
I had a friend who had like a cheat, like a disc you put in that had the cheat codes for it that unlocked everything. It unlocked every mission. It unlocked every ship except for the B-Wing, because you had to have a special something else. You had to actually buy something to get the B-Wing.
Yeah. And all the people listening to us right now, if they're younger than a particular age, they have no idea. They're like, disc? What do you mean disc?
Yeah, mine was like a little square disc about like that big that you put in your computer, and you had to go click.
5 floppy disks just to load one game.
Yeah, and you had to go through DOS, which most people don't know what DOS is.
No.
You had to type C:\\.
C:\\/ X-Wing / Killbot.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, then there was a TIE Fighter. Then you had X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. Yeah. Then you had an online version, which, and then you had another. Then you had another X-Wing game after that. But that's one I've always kind of wished they would remaster and bring back, which they kind of did with the they do a flight simulator game not long ago.
It was the Star Wars game that came out in 2015.
Yeah,
I'm trying to pull it up right now. Star Wars game 2015. It was Battlefront.
No, it wasn't Battlefront. There was another one that came in after that. What was it called? Because they had one that was strictly a flight sim.
Oh,
that was just flight sim. Hold on, let me look. I know this is Squadrons. Star Wars Squadrons came out in 2020, which was a flight.
Oh yeah. I never played that game. It was never anything.
I haven't either. I was wanting, because I was a big fan of the X-Wing series. So, and that seemed very similar to the X-Wing series.
If you've got Xbox, I know that they've had packages in the past where you could download. Because like the game itself, like if you get a hard edition, a physical edition, it's like $10 at GameStop for your Xbox One.
Yeah. All right. So my number 3.
Yep.
Okay. Wow. Again, I think for Star Wars fans, this ship needs very little introduction. And I know you'll recognize it as soon as you see it.
Yeah, probably. Oh, the Ghost.
The Ghost. Yes. My number 3 is the Ghost. Yeah, just
it's such a great Corellian design.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to pull it, but so yeah, I mean, I mean, great ship, and the fact that we've seen it again so much within, outside of Rebels, that it's become, this kind of iconic ship.
Yeah. Well, and eagle-eyed viewers will see it in Rogue One, and they'll see it in the Rise of Skywalker, the big Armada scene. It's there.
Yeah.
And it's entirely possible that they just throw it in because they could digitize it very easily. But at the same time, for eagle-eyed fans, it's really kind of a neat thing to see one of their favorite ships in the full breadth of the cinematic canon.
Yeah. All right, so we are at number 2.
Number 2.
Wow. All right, so my number 2. What do you, now? Let me just ask you, what do you think number 2 is going to be?
For you, I'm trying to figure it out. You feel like more of a Rebel Alliance guy. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say your number 2 is going to be Slave 1, because that would be penultimate to Millennium Falcon.
You're close. You were just a little bit off. My number 2 is actually, hold on, drum roll please. Okay, here. The Millennium Falcon.
So that's your number 2.
My number 2 is the Falcon. Yes.
Nice.
So again, I mean, I don't know anybody who is a Star Wars fan who hasn't wanted to be in the Falcon, who hasn't wanted to fly the Falcon.
Clearly not the actress who played Rey, because she called it garbage.
Oh, well. Well. Wow. We're running a little on time here, so I will just kind of go over. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the videos of people at Galaxy's Edge. The first time they walk around that corner and they see the Falcon. And
oh yeah.
Even I've seen grown men just reduced to tears seeing the Falcon for the first. I mean, up that close. That's just how much this ship means, how iconic it is, and I mean, I think if I think there's only one other ship in Star Wars that I can say is as iconic as the Millennium Falcon, and
that is your number 1 pick.
That is going to be the number 1 pick.
Which I now realize, because we had mentioned it earlier, it's got to be the X-Wing.
It is the T-65 Income Space Superiority Fighter, aka the X-Wing.
Nice.
You can't get more iconic to me than the X-Wing Starfighter. It's just, as a kid who was really into the old Warbirds growing up, the old World War II Warbirds.
Yeah.
This spoke to me. Seeing this ship, and I mean, that's, while other kids, growing up playing Star Wars, they wanted to be in the Millennium Falcon. I'm like, no, I want to be a Luke Skywalker and the X-Wing. Give me the helmet, give me the jumpsuit. I would be happy.
It would be really cool. This is again one of those simulator rides that I would love to see them do
Yeah.
at Galaxy's Edge or something adjacent um, to Star Tours. I think it would be so
Yeah.
neat.
Yeah. Or yeah, I mean, just be able to be in the cockpit of a starfighter like that, and just go on. And I mean, I've enjoyed. I like all of the Rebel starfighters. I think all of them are really cool. The X-wing, the A-wing, the Y, even the Y-wing is kind of cool. And
Yeah,
how it survived so much, because you see it show up in Rebel, in not Rebels, but you see it
Clone
show up
Wars.
Clone War. You see it in Clone Wars, and you see it all the way at Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
There's Y wings and Y, um, but yeah, I just so iconic. Unfortunately, we are running short on time, so we're gonna have to cut it short as we get our um,
second half.
second half ready. I don't even know if we're gonna have time to do our normal outro.
We
Five
can. You know
minutes.
what we could say? Let's just say this. You get do your outro, and then I'll wrap up with hey, be looking for the next half of the
Yeah,
episode.
yeah. All right. Well, you can catch us every week here at War of the Stars, wherever podcasts are heard. Remember, this is our return to YouTube. Hopefully, we're gonna. So if you're watching this on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe. Why do I want to say that? Never had a chance to say that.
It feels natural somehow.
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. Email us at warthestars1@gmail.com. That is also our Twitter handle. Check us out on Facebook at War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Uh,
And
and
Instagram.
Instagram, or at War of the Stars, Star Wars podcast. Just search anywhere on social media at War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast. Look for the cool, you can see the background logo there. Check us out on our Spreadshirt shop. Link will be in all descriptions on all our social media. Check us out there. Get the merch. Buy our stuff. Give us the monies. We want the monies.
Yeah. Otherwise, we can't go to Galaxy's Edge.
No.
Because it's been open for what, 3 years now, and I still haven't gone.
Yeah, I haven't either. Yeah, wherever podcasts are heard, you can check us out there. Also, patreon.com/War of the Stars. Again, give us the monies. With that being said, remember, this isn't just my Star Wars. This isn't just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next time, may the Force be with you.